Thank you. It's very good to be here. I'm Ann Stevenson, and I am very excited to share with you our project that engages young people, teens, middle school and high school for us in the U.S. In environmental issues. So just to introduce you a bit to our Minnesota team, my colleagues Amy and Heidi, and then our teen teachers, a small group of them. And I wanted to just place Minnesota in context for those of you who are less familiar with where that is. So that is Minnesota. And as you can see, we're surrounded by the Great Lakes. And so lakes and rivers and watersheds are very important to us as we think about the environmental issues that impact us. And that little star above the Minnesota is about where the Mississippi River starts, the headwaters of the Mississippi. So that just puts the context. So my goals today are really to explore how teens are equipped as change agents to be civically engaged around environmental issues. And I want to share with you the model that we use to develop the curriculum and the model that we use for our Teens as Teachers program so that you understand it and learn ways that we've implemented it and think about how it might be replicable in many different settings. Just a little bit about how my work happens. I am part of the University of Minnesota, and as part of that institution, and in every state in the U.S., there is a youth program called 4-H, and it's for youth who are age 5 through high school. And it's a youth development program that focuses on experiential learning and helping young people explore an area of passion and interest that they have in building skills for youth leadership and service learning. And so it's connected to the university. So I'm a faculty of the university, but I don't teach on a campus. I teach out in the community, and my work is involved with teaching adults who work with young people. That might be classroom teachers, that might be volunteers who work with our program, that might be community partners who work in environmental services. It would be youth themselves of all those ages. So that is my broad classroom of non-formal learning. And extension is supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And we're really, like I said, based on experiential learning. We equip our volunteers to work with young people in all those age groups. So with this program, we've really addressed the plastic pollution issue. And I'll talk about how we've done that in many different ways and kind of different contexts. But it's helping teens and then younger people understand what that issue is about, why it's important, why we should care about it. And then our work really aligns with those sustainable development goals of life under the water, so particularly around the plastics and microplastics, as you mentioned earlier, and then that responsible consumption and use and disposal of the materials that we use. So we try to tie that to the curriculum and to what we're doing. So we really come from this theoretical background that young people can be innovators and really can be civically engaged in making a difference from very early on to their teenage years and of course beyond that into adulthood. So some of the examples of teens studying water quality of a lake. We have a professor at the University of Minnesota, Duluth, which is right on the shore of Lake Superior, who's studying microplastics as her work. And so connecting our teens to people in those careers to see, that there are careers for young people in STEM, but also to connect the research to the work that we're doing with young people. So just to contextualize this a bit more, the young people that I work with, they're very familiar with ocean plastics or Pacific garbage patch, or kind of those big things that they see in the news or hear about. And so we talk about with them and help them understand that we don't live anywhere near an ocean. We're very middle of the United States, but why that matters because of rivers and watersheds, so that anything we do can have an impact downstream, so to speak. So that is the first picture, is the headwaters of the Mississippi River. It's a beautiful place, and you can walk across the Mississippi River in the sand, in the water, or on the rocks. So that's at one of our state parks, which is very beloved. But to help young people see that it flows to rivers and then into through the US down to Louisiana, Mississippi, into the ocean. And so we have to care about the issue wherever we live. It's basically what that we try to help young people see. So this work has been supported by a National Science Foundation grant through the Department of Chemistry at the University of Minnesota and the Center for Sustainable Polymers. So that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, is when we first connected with the chemistry faculty who were looking to build some curriculum around sustainable polymers. And so understanding polymers, plastics, and most plastics, of course, are made of fossil fuels, oil-based plastics, and the sustainability research being worked on at that time was around bio-based plastics, plant-based plastics. So they connected with 4-H as a vehicle that really reached youth all over the country in out of school time, or it could be within school, and that varies from state to state where 4-H education and programming happens. So we, over the years, have developed 5 levels of curriculum, and they're all available on that the website that'll be up there as free downloads as part of that contribution with National Science Foundation. So we started with kindergarten through 2nd grade, so ages 5 to 8, and really looking at materials and the basics of science skills, observations, and asking questions, and using scientific inquiry to explore the world around them. And then as the curriculum goes through higher levels, we dig into more of the issues of renewable and non-renewable resources, and sustainable materials, and recycling and reusing and reducing. So again, reducing our consumption, but then also thinking about that end cycle. And so then the 2 high school level curriculum, one really getting into the issues of looking at the history of materials, and then what that means for how we reuse them, but how they're produced, and those global issues around manufacturing and disposal. And then the teen science change agents, which is what I'll focus my rest of my remarks on, is really to engage young people we have used it in middle school and high school. So 6th grade would be around age 11 for us, up through age 18, 19. So the 2 parts of it really are around helping young people see themselves as environmental change agents, and choosing the path that they would like to take in their civic engagement. Just a little background, experiential learning model is what 4-H uses. So it's really built on David Kolb's resources around doing, and then reflecting and applying, and reflecting again on what you're doing. So having the experience, and then sharing that experience, talking about it, sharing it, processing what that meant, generalizing that to real life examples, and applying them. And your example from our previous speaker of the birds, and thinking about we generalize that to a real life lesson. Perfect example of that. And so they emphasize the science and engineering practices in the next generation science standards. And again, help equip youth to be change agents. So that's our theoretical model. The pedagogy, again, is experiential learning, place-based learning, very important. And then 4-H is very project-based, so youth can explore any number of projects around whatever area of interest they have. But I think that that notion of gaining knowledge and skills so they can defend and protect and conserve is a critical piece of this project. So for the teen change agent curriculum and projects, young people in the curriculum use this, we help them use this kind of pathway. So figuring out what they're interested in and passionate about and what they'd like to do something about, building their leadership skills independently, and then also building that youth adult partnership so that young people are working in collaboration with adults, that it's not adults overtaking and telling the kids what they should be doing, but that young people are finding their voice and learning ways to influence and impact that. And then to choose. So teens can engage in a community action project. That could be citizen science, it could be participatory research. It could be as simple as picking up trash at the park as part of their service to community. Or they can choose to be teens as teachers. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So one of the pieces of the curriculum, or a couple that I'd like to highlight, is that we really use it to build leadership skills in young people. And for those early middle school youth to see themselves as leaders and what leadership skills they have or what they'd like to look at becoming or building within themselves. So there's various tools around them building their leadership skills in support of adults. And then the other critical thing that I think is sometimes it's fairly unique is that we're building an youth adult partnership, and that builds on the work of David Dr. Hart. Because often we say we want to have youth and adults working together, but the adults have all the power and voice and the youth just do what they're told, and that's not a real partnership. So we're trying to help the adults understand what do you need to do to move this toward youth-driven and youth-centered leadership. So one of the parts of our teen teaching program has been called the Green Superheroes of Science. This has been going on for 5 years. And the goal of this program is to teach younger youth using some of that K2 or 3-5 curriculum that we developed. And then the teens, the 6th through 12th graders, lead activities around that from the curriculum. So you'll see examples of various science experiments that they're doing. We build a we call it Mundo, but it's a bioplastic that they make out of cornstarch. So they understand the differences between plastics made from fuel and plastics made from plant-based things. That experimentation and chance to just discover. We do some art pieces around reusing plastics. So all those lessons are within the curriculum, and then we've designed them so that they're ready for teens to teach. Most of our teens, our core group of teens, most of them started when they were 11 or 12. So now that oldest group is around 17. So that has been really fun to see their growth over that amount of time and that commitment. There's probably about 8 youth who've done that. And you see many of them pictured here. So where do we do programming? We take this to schools. We have taken it to summer school. And often for us, summer school is an academic enrichment time for students who are struggling academically, or maybe they're new language learners to Minnesota. So they're in those programs. So we bring STEM learning and support what the teachers are doing the rest of the day in those summer school programs. That has been very, very highly popular because we're hands-on with them. And then the other thing that we do is train other teens, their peers, so that those teens can go teach it in their setting. So in 4-H, there's programs all over, and the teens that we have might train this group of teens who then can influence their group of little kids. So it kind of spreads that way. Just a few more pictures of them working. One of the activities is they get outside and do a nature walk and pick up litter, and then they talk about and figure out, can they recycle or do they put it in the trash, that sort of thing. With the younger kids, it's also built as a home learning model. So we have done a virtual program where we send a kit of supplies to the family with the lessons, and the parent or another adult or a big brother does the lesson with the child. And then we gather once a week on a Zoom call and do some fun singing and sharing of what they've learned in their experiment that week. They show their whatever experiment they did or whatever they made. And it's just a really nice way for them to connect with the bigger kids and to see what others are learning and have experienced. Let's see. Can cover all this. This is one of the videos. So one of the roles that the teens took on was to create the how-to videos so that we could have a website for parents to go to and see, how do I do this experiment with my child? And they can do it in a video format. So I'll just show you about a minute of this.
People who forget names seconds after hearing them, it's not ADHD, it's an untrained.
Thanks to William. So this is our lesson about plastic litter mystery.
My name is Sophia. I've been Ramsey County 4-H'er for about 4 years, and I am a green superhero. Today, I want you all to be environmental scientists. An environmental scientist is someone who studies, cares for nature. Like here, sometimes I go on walks, and I find plastic bottles and other types of litter. I wonder where this came from. Or the person who put this here, why did they just recycle it? And where would it go if I didn't pick it up? I bet it could go to the Mississippi River. I don't live too far from it. And that would just end up in our rivers and our lakes, and it could hurt animals too, and which could also hurt us. Another way that this is harmful to the environment is that this plastic bottle does not break down on its own. The scientific term for that is to biodegrade. But we don't have to worry about that right now. Because if this doesn't break down, it was just going to sit in the water, sit in the rivers, sit in the lakes. And we do not want litter in the water.
So then she goes on to explain the task, the experiment. So I'm just seeing, and they came up with their scripting, and then we just did simple filming for it.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
One other piece of that we've evolved to is now the teens are training others, their peers and other adults. So these are photos of them training teachers. So then the teachers can take the lesson and implement it in their classroom, or a community partner, a county governmental partner who wants to do more programming out in the community. So they're learning the lessons. And so the teens are very integral in training other adults and their peers in the lessons and how they implement them. We've also included art and built art into this. So we do a plastic sculpture contest. That's part of our state fair, which is a huge gathering for 12 days at the end of summer. So in our building, students can exhibit plastic art made with plastic, and people pass by and see, and the young people can educate them about the importance of thinking about our use and our reuse of plastics. Just a few more pictures. Very creative what youth around the state can create these and bring these. So some of the evaluation and impact, we really have seen in post-training evaluation that the teens are much more environmentally aware. So they're learning the science, the content of some of the science around plastics and bioplastics and environmental impacts of that. They're connecting with researchers who are working on that, so they know what's what's being done in the research realm. They really grow in their leadership and their teaching skills and their confidence in public speaking. So a couple of those data points from our most recent group of teens was just that their increased interest in learning about the environment and how to care for it, and that they can do that, and that they have some actions that they can take that are very simple but can have a very impact. And then we also did a retrospective pre-post with the teens, asking them to rate themselves on how they work with young people. Do they feel comfortable public speaking? Do they feel like they have background in the sciences enough to implement this? So these were a few of the indicators that had some positive change in our most recent. This was our virtual program. So it really came strongly that they became way more confident in teaching younger youth, and we're just excited to do that. And if you ever work in a cross-age teaching situation, you know that the little kids love the big kids, and you have instant credibility as a big kid who's working with those the littles. And so that factor for a 12-year-old who doesn't have much confidence in public speaking or teaching others suddenly becomes a very big deal and a very big part of their leadership growth and journey. So really just neat to see. So in summary, just hopefully you've got a better understanding of how this curriculum and program has helped young people become change agents, what some of the resources are, and the link is on the last slide for you to access that. And we are happy to train others or offer any support or share more of what we do. We have a website of our own for the Green Superheroes that has all the videos and things on it too. So, and that's my grandson in Lake Superior where they live. So I learned how to say that in Italian just for that indicator. So the curriculum 4hpolymers.org is the 5 levels of curriculum. And that's my contact information. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.